Welcome in Braves Today podcast, bravestoday.com, Braves_today on the Twitter. And I'd be remiss if I didn't say this is one of my favorites as the organist joins us. Matthew Kaminski is that's the Twitter name at Braves Organist says it all. I think that's very cool. However, I want to talk baseball with you to begin things. Right now, we are 5-6 at home as we record this. Have you contributed to this slow start at home? I'm a very superstitious person. So
Mhm.
have you done anything different that mixed it up that has caused this bad juju on us right away?
No, well, we're all getting used to the pitch clock, so
Oh man.
perhaps that has uh, gotten the mojo down this year.
Mhm.
But it's way too early to even get superstitious about that. Even superstitions about no hitters and stuff like that. I don't know if I really. I'm sure your fans will get on top of me for this, but I think it's okay to talk about the no hitter as it's happening.
Yes. Well, I think
I think
that
people get really upset when you do bring up that no hitter.
yes, I'm a superstitious person. When it comes to stuff like that, though, I'm also somebody that doesn't believe that me talking about it in the stands or in the press box necessarily affects what the pitcher's doing. I think if one of the players spoke to the pitcher about it, he'd be tarred and feathered down there in the back of the clubhouse. So the
Yeah,
the the players have to stay away from it. However, the broadcast team stayed away from it the other night whenever it was going on with Strider, and
yeah,
I will start. It's kind of a crazy start and crazy beginnings. Your Chicago guy, grew up a Cubs fan. Is that right? Or were you a
yeah,
Sox fan?
yeah. And I was a Cubs fan growing up, so don't hold that against me, Braves fans. I think most Braves fans kind of know that
Mm,
by now. Grew up going to Wrigley Field, and remember hearing the organ there. But I never really thought that was something that I was going to do. I just really enjoyed going to Cubs games,
yeah.
and I've been to a couple White Sox games as well. But for some reason, it wasn't quite as memorable there.
Mhm.
I think I've been to a lot more Cubs games when I was younger.
It definitely is a throwback as far as the organ is concerned. I mean, that's something where I fall into that 40 plus category. So I remember that that's what you heard listening to Cubs game. I mean, when you're growing up, you either watch TBS and the Braves or you watch WGN and the Cubs. That's just how it worked. And so you would hear that stuff in the background. And of course, it seems like you may have made it cool again because I think a lot of people went away from it, from walk up music being maybe pop culture music or something that may be popular, to now it's a little Braves. The guys still have their walk up songs, but still, this is something that you've made cool again, huh?
Well, I think I've made it more interactive than it
Mm,
was in the past. So, my first year when I started in 2009, I set up my Twitter account, and that's when it kind of blew up, where people could suggest songs, and of course, I have to pick the ones that work best on the instrument, and I have to choose ones that work best with the player's name and all that type of stuff. But I think the interaction that fans could have with me and with the game is something that really appeals to the fans.
I mean, there are people that go to the games now to listen to you. You realize that, right?
Well,
I mean, they do
um,
go to the game to watch the game, but they're there and they're like, what is he going to do next?
yeah, well, it's not exactly the Matthew Kaminski concert that they're putting on the tickets.
I,
So,
I do agree with that. It's funny because you kind of stumbled into this. You said that it was in '09. It was just one of those things where you were given lessons. Am I right? And then a friend of a
mhm.
friend said, "Hey, they're looking for something. Would you be interested?" And was it a tryout? Was it just something somebody put you in front of someone? How did that work?
Yeah, so I always tell people my audition was in front of about 10,000 people.
Oh,
So the back in '09 and even years after, they used to have spring training games at Turner Field just to get the stadium workers ready.
mhm.
So they usually had two of them every year at Turner Field, and those two spring training games were my audition. They wanted to see if I could kind of handle the pressure of playing, as well as taking direction while I was playing. So I was at Turner Field. I was actually in the press box, way separated from the audio booth. So I had to listen to my boss on headset while I was playing, and they would tell me to like stop playing in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and all that type of stuff. So it's something I have to get used to, and it's something I still, my eyes are always looking at different things on the field, as well as listening to my producer on my headset these days too. So there's always kind of getting used to concentrating at more than one thing at a time.
Your roles as or you talked about it, it's more of a production now than what it was. It's not like a concert series or something like that. As you said, you've got somebody in your ear. Let's talk about show prep a little bit. Did a lot of this come natural when you started out in '09? Did you just kind of try something to maybe turn their ear towards you, and then it's grown from there? Or through the years, has the show prep come more along the lines of, I'm going to look at the roster, I'm going to come up with some things? I know you say you use the fans, but then again, if somebody gets injured or you have a quick pitching change, may not have the input of fans as well as maybe something that you've played before.
Yeah, well, at first it was really my wife and I. We would just look at the rosters, usually the day before or even the day of the game, and see which ones would kind of work the best, with their names and such. But these days with Twitter and Facebook, all I have to do is choose the ones that the fans suggest, and I'm choosing ones. There's a couple of reasons why I choose songs. Number one, of course, it has to work on the instrument. But number two, I try to choose songs that are widely recognizable through different age ranges. So I don't want to just play new songs that, for example, like a 50-year-old and up may not recognize. And then I don't want to play just old songs that like the 20-year-olds wouldn't recognize.
Yeah.
So I try to pick the songs that are really universally recognizable. And then these days, I get a little bit less time with the pitch clock. So I'm trying to make it recognizable from the first note that I play. So I have to go right for that, right for that recognizable part of the song.
How has that affected you? I mean, the pitch clock, we think about pitchers and batters and everything else. I mean, you've got, instead of having, what would you say the time difference is that you had before? Maybe 40 seconds to come up with something really quick that could last for 20 seconds. And that's been cut down to now you've got 25 seconds and they don't want you playing when they're in the box.
Yeah. So it's not that drastic. So, to me, it's really similar to college baseball. So I play a lot of college baseball games, and in college baseball, the on-deck circle to the batter's box is not very far. It's definitely not as far as major leagues. So the time that I get now, I would say it's about 5 seconds less than I got in previous years with the Braves. And
that's not too bad.
And it's about the same as college games. So I think I was prepared to make my point, and it's usually about I'm guessing about 15 seconds is what I get. Sometimes it's a little bit longer, but it's about 15 seconds, and I could make my point in 15 seconds.
From 2009 to how long ago was it that you started doing games elsewhere? I know that you've been to Georgia, you've been to Duty Noble over in Mississippi, you've done Georgia State, you've done the Athens Green Jackets, the Augusta Green Jackets. You've done Auburn University baseball as well. When did all of that start? Because being an Auburn guy, as you see the Tiger behind me, I mean, that's us having the Tim Hudson connection. John Schuerholz's son played at Auburn. I mean, we've, a lot of people in the Auburn area are Braves fans.
Yeah. Yeah, so the University of Georgia is the first one to contact me, and that was probably, I want to say 2011. So shortly after I started with the Braves, and they had me coming out for weekend games, and I've been with them ever since. So I've given the University of Georgia kind of first dibs on my schedule, and then on top of that, like you mentioned, all the other schools, as well as this weekend I'll be doing Georgia Tech. As well as Jacksonville State up in Alabama. So, the college baseball environment is so different to me than the major league environment, and I have a lot of fun seeing what works. Something that may work at Truist Park may not work at Duty Noble Field. So I have to kind of adjust to each of the college crowds, and and I love it. I love coming out to Auburn. I'll go eat at what's that restaurant I go to? Niffers. I don't know if they're one of your sponsors, but I always go to Niffers whenever I stop at Auburn, as well as I stopped at the Whataburger as
Yep.
well, and I enjoyed that too. So it's funny. Each of these towns I go to, I either check out the food, or I'll check out if there's a record store.
Yes.
So I'm a big vinyl record enthusiast, so I'm always going to the local record stores and checking that out as well.
Well, I mean, I know you're a music major, but I could definitely tell, or got your master's in that from Georgia State. But I can tell just by listening to some of the things you play. One of my side gigs that I had coming up was before I got into hosting and doing talk and all that. Of course, a DJ. So country music as well as classic rock. So some of the things that I hear, I know what it is, but I'm wondering if the 12 or 13-year-old may know. So that's why you have to have that combo of mixing it up where the older generation may recognize some stuff, newer generation. I will say when you do various events, various venues, you talked about, of course, you got your Atlanta stuff that you're used to. And so you have to just study on the series that's coming up, one team. But when you go do, say, Auburn or in Athens or, University of Georgia or go to Dudy Noble, are you having to do a little extra prep to kind of look at both rosters? Because you may not. Athens, I'm sure you're familiar with by now, but you still now you're looking up two teams and having to know two different names and that kind of thing.
Well, I still don't do the home teams for when I play the college games, so
still
I don't
let
have
their
to worry
walk-ups
about the home lineups. Yeah, the college lineups present more of a challenge because number one, I don't know who the regular substitutes would be for a pitch hitter. Also, they're not names that I regularly see from year to year. So a lot of times, when the Mets come into town, the Marlins, you see the same names over and over. But with the college, lineups, I think this weekend I'll be seeing Gardner Webb and North Alabama. So those are two teams that I've probably never seen their lineup before. So,
right.
But I do have there's certain names or certain first names that I have go-to songs for. So anytime there's an Andy or Andrew, I'll do the Andy Griffith song.
Yeah.
Or anytime there's a John, I'll do John Jacob Jingleheimer Schmidt. So I do have my last second go-tos if I can't think of anything. And then if it's a pinch hitter coming in, I can't think of anything, I'll just play "Who Are You" by The Who. And that's really for me, because I can't really think of anything on the spot. So, usually I try to get to the college stadium about an hour and a half before the game, and I'll kind of look at the lineup and see if I could quickly come up with something.
Very cool stuff. I will ask you this before I let you go. You had your hand slapped? Have you done too much? Have you gone too far?
Well, yeah, there's certain things they don't want me to play. For example, I used to actually, which I loved this. I wish that I could still do this, but whenever, for example, if there's a Georgia Tech player up to bat, I think was it Derek Dietrich who played for the Marlins? I think he went to Tech. I would play the UGA fight song for him. Or if there's a UGA player like Alex Wood up to bat, well, he doesn't bat now anymore anyways, but if there's a UGA player, I'll play the Ramblin' Wreck from Georgia Tech for him. And then I've actually gotten booed before. I think this is why they don't let me do it anymore, because I turned the college crowd against me. So I've gotten booed before by playing Rocky Top at the at the stadium, which I think is hilarious. So they told me that let's stop doing the college fight songs, but I wish I could still do that though.
So that's the one time you got your hands slapped. I'm shocked at some players that you may play something maybe edgy and they actually find it funny. They love it. Opposing players. I read a story about Derek Worth, who Jesus is all right with me just because of what
Jason
he looked
Worth,
like. Yeah. And then also Altuve, you played "I'm a Little Teapot" when he was up, and I really thought you'd get your hand slapped for that, but nobody said anything to you.
No, with the Astros, I could have gone much worse, but No, I think that's
Bang on the drum all day, that kind of thing.
yeah, that's pretty tame. I think the one that my boss asked me not to play too much is short people. You ever hear that Randy Newman song? It says, "Short people got no reason to live." It is
Oh,
kind of his humor.
yeah.
So, um, yeah, I don't know why people get so upset about short and tall jokes, and
Mm.
some people get upset. My boss doesn't really get upset, but there are people on Twitter that got upset because I played this old man for uh, Pujols, Albert
Oh,
Pujols. Yeah. So anytime there's a player over 40, and I'm older than all the players. I'm
right.
46 years old. So it's not like I'm really doing it against myself these days. I'm officially older than all the Major League Baseball players. But yeah, so sometimes I'll play This Old Man or Old Man by Neil Young or Old
Mm.
Man River.
Yep. Yeah, I always wondered. I was like, when I hear stuff, I'm like, oh, is he going to get his hand slapped on that, or somebody at least say something to him? I will say, I don't know how that contract works year to year. I know I've seen the articles come out and say you're back for another year. Hopefully this continues. We love it. We love it in Auburn. Quickly before I let you go, your thoughts on the season thus far. I know it's way too early, but we already on this podcast have called it the way too early predictions, where Ronald Acuna, we call it Ronald Acuna Jr. is the best player in baseball and will always be. And we've also talked about if this is World Series or bust, even though we don't technically believe that. It's just a great hot take. But some of your takes on what you've seen on the field thus far.
You know what? I think they'll be fine this year. I think they're definitely make the playoffs and hopefully and beyond. I think that a lot of the injuries we're having now hopefully won't be later in the season. So hopefully when we get different pitchers back and maybe later in the season we might have Soroka. I think the Braves will be fine. Every team goes through injuries, and it seems like to me the teams that do well in the postseason don't have their injuries around that time. Now, we had one big caveat with Acuna when we won the
Yes.
World Series, so that's a little bit different. But I think we had enough time to kind of adjust for that with the roster. But hopefully the worst injuries, we kind of take care of now, and then later on, we'll be a lot more healthy.
Have you been here long enough to hate the Mets, the Phillies, and the Dodgers yet?
Well, I get tired of seeing them, even though this year there's a more what we call a balanced schedule. So I don't think we see the teams as much as we used to. But I just get I don't know if I hate them because I don't have that like I didn't grow up here, so I don't have that like hatred as I do with the Green Bay Packers.
Oh,
So growing up a Chicago Bears fan, I absolutely hate the Green Bay Packers, but I don't have that hate for the Mets or Phillies or Nationals. And actually, a lot of times, I find that their fans are the most receptive to what I do. So,
I'm sure.
The Phillies and especially the Mets, they have hardcore fans, so they let me know kind of sometimes the behind the scenes stuff that I could get at for a player. And some of them get angry at what I do, but that's Mets fans for you.
Yeah,
but no, I just get tired of seeing a lot of the same teams. So I love this new kind of scheduling where we see a lot more of the teams. I think that's great.
No, I do too. So looking forward to the season. Looking forward to listening. I don't know if you have any trips to Auburn planned anytime soon. That would be awesome. And I know they can find out more information by going to your website. It's just your name. It's
Yeah,
MatthewKaminski.com.
MatthewKaminski.com. Yeah, I played a weekend earlier in this season at Auburn, and unfortunately I wasn't able to fit in anymore. Unless there's a way for me to play I guess the SEC tournament or something. Or they're in the SEC, right?
SEC tournament could be a possibility. I don't know that they're good enough that they'll get a regional or a sub-regional this year. So that would be another one that could possibly happen, but I don't know that that's going to happen. So I greatly appreciate your time. This is very cool. This is a peek behind the scenes. We're always talking numbers and we're talking games. And I thought, you know what? he's just as much a part of what we see inside of Truist Park than anybody. So don't get to it, and it puts a face with a name. People hear the name, they hear the Braves Organist, and I greatly appreciate the time you gave me.
Yeah, thank you so much, and go Auburn, War Eagle.
That's right, and go
And I'll
Braves and chop
see,
on.
yeah, and go Braves, and I'll see you guys around the stadium.
You bet.